Hi, this is Deanna Kosaraju. I'm the founder of Global Tech Women, and welcome to session number 2 of Voices 2017. We've created Voices. It's a virtual conference for women in technology and female founders around the world because we saw that there was an issue with women having access to inspiring role models and information and cool technology, and those who can support us both in professional and personal development. And that's why we created Voices 5 years ago, in order to bridge that gap. And we offer these sessions for free to anyone who wants to participate. So we hope that you join us for a number of sessions this week, the week of International Women's Day. We're really excited about the upcoming lineup and really excited about this session with Betsy Furler. Betsy is the CEO of Communication Circles. It's a consulting agency that works with app developers, tech companies, and also individual people, looking at ways that we can provide better usability for people with disabilities. So this is a topic near and dear to my heart. I have a number of friends in the developer industry who are hearing impaired, are seeing impaired. So I'm really looking forward to hearing Betsy's advice and hopefully use it on our Global Tech Women website, as well as in other places where we use technology. And her topic today is expand your reach with inclusive design. So Betsy, take it away, and I will be here in the background. Just call me if you need me.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. I'm so excited to be here and talk to y'all today about how to make your products more accessible and more usable for people with disabilities of all types. So I am going to share the screen and go to my PowerPoint. Okay, I think we're gonna have to go with this view of it. So I am the CEO of Communication Circles. I actually started my career as a speech pathologist. Let me go on to my slide with myself on there. I started my career as a speech pathologist who just really saw people of all different ages and types of disabilities. So I have worked with adults who have had strokes or have dementia, Alzheimer's, other types of aging disabilities. I have worked with babies, brand new babies, working on feeding therapy with them. And I've worked with children with autism and young adults with autism extensively. And through all of that, I really have an idea on how people with varying disabilities are able to interact with our world. So when the iPad came out a few years ago, I was so excited. I loved the iPod Touch because it was suddenly something that we could use with a patient to see if they could access a touch screen and if they would benefit from a more expensive communication devices. There have been communication devices out there my entire career, but they were extremely expensive. And it was always a tough call to decide if it was going to be cost effective to buy one of those huge devices for a patient. So when the iPod Touch came out, I immediately started using that with my adult patients. There were some apps early on that provided augmentative communication, and I was able to show a patient, say, who'd had a stroke and lost his ability to communicate, the app and see if he could activate it. And that was really exciting. But the problem with the iPod Touch was that it was just way too small. So I was really, really excited when the iPad came out. So when the iPad came out, one of my patients' moms really thought it was the best thing for her child. His name is Vincent, and I was helping him integrate into a general ed kindergarten classroom. So he speaks, so he did not need augmentative communication, but he needed more support than a typical kindergarten classroom gives. He had a lot of fine motor issues. So we started using an iPad with him, both in the classroom and at home, to get him another means of fine motor tasks and scheduling and things like that. So his mom, Kristen, my friend, started an organization called Bridging Apps. And I was a founding member of the organization, and I still do consulting with them. And we look at using technology with people with disabilities. So that's where I kind of started. Then as I got more and more interested in the iPad, I became more and more interested in technology in general and trying to figure out ways that technology can really make a huge impact on the lives of people with disabilities. So I started getting more and more involved in different groups, different professional groups with technology people, and started thinking of myself more as a technology person than I ever have had before. 10 years ago, I think I was using a BlackBerry or some kind of flip phone. I had a PC, and that was about it. I now love all sorts of technology and have to have the newest gadget on the market, whatever it is. I think I own about 8 tablets of all different types because I like to figure out the different interfaces and how people with different disabilities are able to use them, as well as computer issues. So that's a little bit about me, but today I'm here to talk about how you can expand your reach of your products by making them more inclusive. And I'm going to tell you 5 easy ways to change your website or app to make it more inclusive. Why is accessibility important? Well, accessibility is so important to me because of the wonderful people that I've worked with for 25 years. This little girl uses her technology for her voice. She's one of my long-term patients, and it's very important that she has access to that technology, and she uses it. It's literally a lifeline for her and her parents. Technology is important for all of us to interact in this world, and the changes in technology in the last 5 years have made such a huge difference in the lives of people with disabilities. But there can be things that can be done to improve them, and that's what I want to talk about today. This is another little boy who's a great reason why technology should be accessible. They're also seniors. So we are all aging, unfortunately, and we're all losing our hearing and our vision and our mobility. We are all becoming disabled, as the term is, although most seniors do not consider themselves to be disabled. So as we make technology more inclusive for people with labeled disabilities, so to speak, we're also making technology more inclusive for everyone as we age, and we need more support with vision, hearing, mobility, and cognitive supports. Also, good design is good design. So if it's a good design, it's good for everybody. To make something more inclusive includes everyone. Anyone can have a temporary disability or have one set of circumstances when these accessibility features or an accessible website is really important to them. I use the reverse color all the time just so it's not as bright, especially if I'm in a dark room or something like that, and I don't want it to, just glare out other people. So these tweaks can be very helpful for everyone who uses your website. And by making it more accessible for people with disabilities, when you're looking at it through that lens, it really does make it a better product. So some of the things that we look at for looking at people with disabilities is that there are 1 million or 15% of the world's population has a labeled disability. So that is a very significant population just right there without adding all of these other issues that I talked about. Some of these that we often look at as far as accessibility issues go are visual impairments, cognitive challenges, hearing impairments, physical access issues, attention deficit disorder, learning disabilities, reading disabilities, and color blindness. Those are some of the ones we usually look at accessibility issues, especially for vision disorders and color blindness. But that just is the tip of the iceberg of people with disabilities. So some of the things that I'm going to talk about today will help make your product more accessible. So I chose 5. It was really, really hard for me to narrow it down to 5, but I'm hoping that these are 5 things that you'll really get some use out of and are fairly easy things to change on an existing website or app in order to make it more accessible and be able to reach more people. So they are, the first one is choosing color. I'm gonna read through them, I think, and then go through each one individually. So the first is choosing color. The second one is font size. The third one is alternative ways to access the information. The fourth is to make images readable. And the fifth is to keep your copy simple. So when choosing colors, you really want to look for high contrast colors. There are several different tools out there on the internet, and I do have a handout that I can either email to you. If you email me, my email will be at the end. It's info@communicationscircles.com, or they're going to put it on the Global Voices website as well. So you can have the links to those tools. So it's really important to choose colors that are high contrast. For people with any type of vision loss or are in a glare or temporarily have something going on with their eyes, high contrast is very helpful in allowing them to be able to see things much better. It makes a huge difference. Another issue in choosing colors is to don't let color carry all the meaning in your product. So for instance, if you have a green button and that means go, but it's just green, and the stop button is a red button that look exactly the same, for people with certain types of color blindness, they're not going to be able to distinguish between those 2 buttons. Also, for some people with cognitive issues, they may not know that green means go and red means stop. So you need to have some kind of text behind it. A third issue with that example is that with a screen reader, it will not read the color without the text being there. So it's very important to think about those kind of very simple things. Another thing that I see a lot on apps for children is that there'll be a button that means go that's colored red. So it may say go on it, but if a child can't read, they don't know that that means go. So from a cognitive standpoint, it's important to think about the colors and make them very conventional. So red means go, green means go, and red means stop, and not vice versa. It makes it much easier for a lot of people with a lot of disabilities to be able to access it if you have the standardized coloring as well as a word and maybe an icon. So colors also cannot carry the meaning, as I said before, because for people with visual impairments, the screen reader cannot read that. So to kind of wrap up choosing colors, the things that I want you to look at when choosing colors are looking at high contrast. Don't rely on colors to carry all of the meaning. So you need some kind of text or alt text for the screen readers. And use standardized or conventional colors for different things like stop and go. This will help people with vision impairments, color blindness, as well as cognitive issues. So while including all of that, that also helps seniors because they are starting to have issues with vision. As we all know, as we get older, it just gets harder and harder to see anything. The next of the second point is adequate font size. Again, this helps a lot with vision issues. So you also want to use limit the use of all caps because that causes a problem for screen readers. So if someone's going to be looking at your website with a reading it with a screen reader, all caps cause a problem for screen readers. So you want to just be aware of that and conscious of it. you just want the font size also just to be big enough and bold enough that people can see. Again, you need to have enough contrast between the picture and the text, or the background and the text, so it's very apparent and it does not cause more eye strain than is necessary. If you have difficulty making the font size big enough, you can also have a zoom function. This is especially helpful on apps. You can also have some kind of auditory assistance where it is reading what's on in the text. So adequate font size helps people with vision issues, reading disorders, and some cognitive issues. All of those can be overcome with large, bold text. Again, it's a little switch, and it's just something to kind of be conscious of and think about when you're designing a product, to make sure that you are thinking about all of those issues and the different ways that people access it. Number 3 is to provide alternative ways to access information. These days, it's very easy to caption a video, and I highly recommend providing captioning for videos. It's one of those tweaks that makes a huge, huge life-saving difference for people with disabilities, but it also makes a huge difference for those of us who want to watch a YouTube video during a meeting or something like that, because we can't hear this, we can't turn up the sound. So if you can read the captions, it makes it accessible to all of us. So captioning is very important. Also providing video transcripts of any videos. If you're looking at the app market, I recommend providing voiceover, verbal directions, and anything you can do to keep from being completely reliant on vision. The fourth tip is to use alt tags and information to help with the screen readers. Screen readers can be very tricky, and so many people with visual impairments are relying on screen readers to get their information. So it's very important to think about them when you're looking at these issues. I'm going to go right back up here. Oh, I did not go through my slides either. Okay, so choosing colors, we went through. Fonts, we went through. Alternative ways to present information, and then making images readable. So the most important thing in this area is to not have a photo that stands alone, that doesn't have any text connected with it. Because when you have a photo that stands alone, once again, the screen readers are not going to read that. So anyone who has a vision disorder that's using a screen reader might not get the information, or will not get the information. And it's also helpful, screen readers are also sometimes used by people with learning disabilities or reading disabilities in order to get more of the context of the website. So many different types of disabilities are overcome by the use of screen readers. And in order to use a screen reader successfully, you need to have those images be readable, unless they're purely just for decoration's sake. Just opening up one more thing on my iPad to talk about. So to recap this, you want to make images readable, and you want to think about the images if they cannot be seen. So if you want to look at your product as if you can't see the product yourself, and see how it works with a screen reader. That's really the best way to test it. We do have, it is different for a person with vision to do this. So there are several organizations out there, Knowbility in out of Austin is one of those who does testing for websites. You can also add text or audio with the image if you need to. The last one is probably the most important in my mind, and that's to keep your text simple. This is very important for people with cognitive issues, vision impairments, learning disabilities, as well as for seniors. Often I go to a website and I'm overwhelmed by it because it has too much text, it has too much information there. I can't really navigate it because it's just all so overwhelming. So if you keep your copy simple and keep your website simple, that makes a huge difference to the usability of that site. The copy also can be bullet pointed, so someone can scan through. Again, great for people with disabilities, also great for people like me and you who are busy and don't necessarily want to read through the entire 3-paragraph story. It's nice to have bullet points. You also want to have simple visuals that are attractive and engaging, but yet they don't cause sensory overload. Many people with autism, as we all know, it's either growing or more diagnosed in our world, and that's very overwhelming for people on the autism spectrum to have lots of sensory information coming in. Which, just as a side note, things like music playing when you enter the site or a video starting to play when you enter the site is also both confusing and overwhelming from a sensory standpoint for people with a variety of disabilities, as well as typical people. So you want to keep any copy and any verbal or written directions simple. With apps, it's important that either the app be very intuitive and require no written directions, no verbal directions, or that those directions are extremely simple so anyone can follow along. Especially for apps with children. I mean, we have children who are 3 years old able to play apps due to the great apps that are out there and the way they're designed to be so intuitive. So just one small story about this. I find, looking at the app market, I find that if the app is very intuitive, it just can open up the world for someone with a disability. For instance, I have friends who are nonverbal and who have cerebral palsy and are in wheelchairs. I have a few of them who use eye gaze for communication. And they have typical cognitive skills, so they are able to do anything that we can do with their brains. They just can't move their body the way that we can. And they are able now to use technology to access the web. So they will be on your websites, accessing the information, and they're doing it with eye gaze. They are able to use things like Zoom and Skype and FaceTime in order to call friends and then communicate with them. Doorbells like the Ring app. One of my friends is able to use that. If no one else is home, she can answer the door and use her computer, which is her speaking device, to talk to the person who's at the door. She can order food through one of the many, Favor and all the many Uber Eats, all the many food services that we have now. Technology makes a huge, huge difference in these people's lives. And it's so important to make it as accessible as possible, both for the good of the world, as well as for your bottom line. As the more accessible you can make all of your information in your sites, the more people that can enjoy that information as well as purchase your products and or join your community. So to wrap up, the good design is good for everyone, and it's very important to have accessible websites, accessible apps in order to reach your entire customer base. You don't want to leave out 15+% of the population just because of accessibility issues. And as more people with disabilities are in the workforce and seniors are staying in the workforce longer and longer, they are consuming more and more goods, and it's really important for us to be able to reach them, as well as it's good for them to be able to reach what everyone else can. So I hope you consider some of these 5 things. I'm going to go back to the slide with my 5 quick tips. Just to review, they're choosing color, remember contrast, font size, it needs to be big and bold so people can see it. Alternative ways to access information like captioning or a video transcript. Make images readable, so an image isn't just sitting on a page with no backup of text or audio. And most of all, keep your copy simple. I think that's really the most important one, especially for people with cognitive issues and seniors. And again, the rest of the population like us who are too busy to read an entire article and would like to get it in just a short little set of bullet points. So just to try to get over, there's my information. Again, my name is Betsy Furler. If you would like my handouts, I have a handout on some useful links with some of the accessibility tool checkers, so you can put your website in there and it will check for accessibility, as well as more tips on how to make your website or your app more accessible. And then I also have a handout on my 5 tips that I went through today. So please email me at information@communicationscircles.com if you would like that information. My Facebook page is Communication Circles. My website is www.communicationscircles.com. And on Twitter, I'm Betsy Furler. So thanks so much. I'm going to go ahead and close my keynote and go back, hopefully, to my video feed.
Thanks, Betsy. I was sitting here taking copious notes of all of the things I need to work on. So I have some questions. There isn't any questions yet in chat, so you have a few moments to do that. So I'm going to ask a few of my questions, and then I'll keep an eye on the chat window.
Okay.
But the first question I had, which I think is really important and something that I should be looking into, is the captioning of video. You talked about it briefly, but do you know of any, do you know how, if there's services that do that? Can you kind of give me kind of the scoop on how to get that done?
There are several services out there that do it. If you have a video that you've uploaded to YouTube, they do provide a paid service where you can have it done through there. You can also have it, if you upload it to Facebook, it will auto caption it for you. You have to make quite a few changes and tweaks to it, but that is kind of an easy way to do it. I was telling Deanna beforehand that I have like the most awesome administrative assistant in the world, and she actually captions my videos for me. She was like a phenomenal competitive typist in high school. So she can caption them really fast. So I recommend you all finding someone.
Can you clone her?
Award. So what she does is she makes a video she does the captioning and then takes the captioning and makes it into a video transcript for all my videos for me.
Wow. Okay.
Which is great. But the captioning is really important, and it's really pretty easy to do. Now, all of the video platforms, once you have the captions, will auto sync them to the video. So you don't have to worry about that issue anymore. Technology has just made all of this so much easier. Okay.
I see a new project in my future. I'm going to have to go give the Facebook one a try, see how far I can get. All of the sessions that we do here at Voices are all recorded and put on our YouTube channel as well as our website. And I would love to figure out ways to caption these. So
Yes.
people would have more access to them. So this is awesome. And
you can also caption in other languages as well.
That was going to be my question, because we have people from all over the world. It would be great to have it in multiple languages.
Yeah, I actually meant to mention that during the presentation, that all of these accessibility issues also help with people who are speaking a different language. Mm-hmm. So if your website or app is in German and some of your user base is speaking English, all of these accessibility tips also help with that, because it gives us just more contextual clues to what's going on and helps us access the information.
Okay, that's awesome. I'm gonna go give that a try. I think that's worth a blog too. I think we might have to blog about my experiences. So the second question I had, and I don't know, maybe this might even be a possible business for somebody. Is there like an app that will go comb through your website and kind of tell you areas where you could be more accessible?
There are several web-based tools that do that, and they are, I can't ever remember the exact names, but they are in my handouts.
Okay.
I can pull up the handout really quick and tell you. There's also an organization called Nobility that's in Austin, Texas, and they test websites for accessibility. They hire people with a variety of different disabilities who do that. So to go beyond just kind of like the computer version of testing it out, they can test the entire website out.
That's cool.
So one of the free accessibility checks is wave.webaim.org.
Okay.
And then I also came across an interesting website. It's dandelionwebdesign.com. They work specifically with accessibility for WordPress sites.
Oh, so nice.
That was interesting, since so many of us use WordPress for our apps. As far as I know, there are not any tools out there to look at accessibility for apps. Apps are so relatively new on the market, and there is not as much accessibility information or products out there for accessibility with apps. That's been my main focus, because I did kind of become a technology person because I am totally obsessed with apps. So that's kind of been my main focus on my consulting business, is working with app developers who are developing mobile apps and trying to make them more accessible. And there's no, like WCAG is the standard for websites, and there's no standard as we speak for apps, although I do believe something is in development.
Okay. And you just brought this back into my brain. There was a person who spoke who had questions about this a couple of weeks ago, and was looking for, who's an authority in this space on accessibility for web apps, or mobile apps. So I'll definitely I'll figure out who that person was and get them connected with you. And they should also watch this video if they're not already on here. All right, so that's all the questions I have. I just have a very long checklist of things I need to make sure nothing annoys me more than music on a website when you go in there and there it is. So that wouldn't happen.
You can't figure out how to turn it off.
Oh my gosh. And you're in a meeting or you're in a really quiet place and it starts playing and then you're scrambling to get the sound off. Yeah, that's good. But the caps, I think, are an issue for a lot of websites. I see that in a lot of places. So, and then the color definitely is an issue.
The caps is something I even kind of struggle with, because I like to put things in all caps, and then I have to constantly remind myself of that it's not good for readers.
Well, you put a lot of really important information into our brains, so thank you for doing that. I think all of this is going to be very useful for the designers and the developers and the product people who will be watching this recording and watching us now. So we really appreciate all of your input, and definitely will be joining your Facebook, liking your Facebook page.
Yes, and please follow me on Twitter. I'm trying to get to 1,000 Twitter followers.
Okay, well, we'll definitely work on that.
I think I'm at 870 right now. So.
Oh, okay, well, we'll see what we can do. All right, awesome. And then do you know Richard Ladner. He's in University of Washington. He works a lot in this space, and I definitely want to connect the two of you.
Yes, yeah, I do not know him. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, I met him. I used to run the Grace Hopper Celebration for Women in Computing, and whenever we had this discussion, he was always brought up as the expert. He's cited in a lot of papers on design, and so yeah, I think the two of you would be a great connection. So
yes, I'm new to the website portion of it. Like I said, I really got drawn into technology because of apps.
Yeah.
I grew up really thinking that girls couldn't do math and science. And so I never, not because of my parents, but just because of society. And so I never knew that I really loved, well, I loved science when I was a really little girl. And then kind of once these, the Apple, devices came out, that iPod Touch was the first thing that I was so excited about. That's when I really got involved. So I really entered this world through the app market and am now making my way into the website market.
Cool. And I think, he has a personal story, if I recall, which is why he's in the space. So he was a technologist, and then he saw, friends and family members who had this need. And so that's how he started on this journey as well. So it's interesting how, our backgrounds are what often drive us to leveraging technology to help change the world.
Yes. Yes.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Betsy. Really appreciate it. We will have this recording up on the website within 10-15 minutes. I'll email you when it's done, and then I'll get those resources up on the website as well.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to watch some of the other sessions also.
Oh, thank you so much. And thanks to everyone for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you at the next session.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.